Empire. The betting markets are getting more and more intricate.
What our operating system enables us to do in a matter of days or weeks, depending on the market, is to literally think of any market imaginable and generate derivative markets around every play. So in your example, we could generate derivative markets like, will this 3rd and 10 play result in a sack? Yes or no?
That's Joey Levy, co-founder of Simplebet. As betting legalizes, the micro markets expand. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Sports betting is the present and future of the market in sports content, but it remains in land grab mode as states and jurisdictions continue to legalize around the country, and contractors who go through the paces will end up providing services for new users. Joey Levy knows that it's only truly the beginning and that the future for the sports bettor will be something closer to in-game day trading. Our guest this week is the co-founder of Simplebet, Joey Levy, to talk about the micro market betting market, which is changing sports betting and gambling. Hey, Joey, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Good. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Listen, I get it. This is the future. Implementing it in real time, since you're in the middle of it, I'm fascinated by it. So let's start with the idea of Simplebet from the get-go. What was the goal of the company when you started it?
Sure. So we actually started Simplebet initially with the vision that the sports betting user experience needed to be considerably more intuitive and entertaining for a broader audience of casual sports fans, hence our name Simplebet. So our initial goal was to create a simpler user experience around sports betting. And when PASPA was repealed about 6 weeks after we actually formed the company, we decided to focus on U.S. sports, just given the market had opened up. And specifically, we were interested in creating betting opportunities around the moments that drive U.S. sports consumption within the games. So if you think of baseball, pitches and at-bats, NFL, betting on every play and drive, even NBA, which is a more fluid game, enabling users to predict what LeBron James is going to do on his next field goal attempt and things like that. So we wanted to enable simple user experiences around these really discrete moments within U.S. sports. And the initial plan was we were going to build these simple user experiences, license the odds generating services from third-party providers that typically provide these services. So people like BetRadar, BetGenius, some of the other traditional vendors. When we went to the market looking for that back-end technology, we realized that nobody had developed it. And that's when we essentially pivoted into a B2B technology company that was focused on enabling or developing the enabling technology for this new type of betting for the first time. And that's where we are today. We basically spent about the last 2.5 years since making that decision, building the micro markets engine to enable these new betting markets, with the goal of eventually using the technology we've developed to create the future operating system of in-play betting for all U.S. sports, really just starting with micro markets.
I'm going to get into the fun part of this in a moment, but I want to do nuts and bolts with you for a moment, since expediency and speed are going to be extraordinarily important in making these transactions happen. The advent of 5G, how did that affect how you guys ran your business and built your models?
Sure. So first and foremost, our priority is to ensure that users can't do court siding or take advantage of lines if they're in the venue and seeing what's happening in the action before they see it on their app. So, first and foremost, we wanted to ensure that the technology was fast enough and that there were safeguards to enable us to suspend markets before people in venue would be able to take advantage of the market. So, our technology that both automates the market mechanics and uses machine learning to publish the prices delivers the prices to the end user in about 1 to 1.5 seconds of latency from the real life event occurring. So we've already sort of accounted for that issue, and that's largely in part to the technology developed by Sport Radar, where the scouts who are in the stadium plugging in the incident feeds, they, from the moment that they plug in that incident to it being delivered to that system, it being delivered to our system, that's about 1 second of latency, and then our performance budget is about another half a second. The advent of 5G technology and other low latency streaming technologies is really more beneficial to the user experience, because ultimately for micro markets to be as commercially viable as we would like for them to be, particularly for the super granular markets like play level markets and pitch level markets, we need the way consumers consume sports media via broadcast or OTT or however they're consuming it nowadays to be as close to real time as possible. And we're really encouraged with what we're seeing from the telecoms who are pioneering 5G technology, but then also other companies that are wholly dedicated to low latency streaming. So, companies like Phoenix, for example, have done a really good job of building technology that will help broadcasters reduce latency and ultimately enable users to, predict things like what's going to happen in the next pitch of a baseball game with a seamless second screen experience.
How long, this is probably consistently evolving, but you have to turn around these lines in these markets, short of something like golf, where you have time to set a line in between shots. But you're talking about pitch by pitch, 3rd and 10. Are they going to convert? What the possible outcomes could be? Is this person going to make a free throw, et cetera, et cetera? How could you take me through the evolution of getting what you believe are proper lines out there in extraordinary quick amount of time?
Yeah. So, are you asking, how our technology works, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Because what you're saying. Yeah, because just to take a step back, just to touch upon the broader landscape in sports betting today. So, you sort of start with these pre-match money line point spread over-under markets. And these are markets that you bet on before the game begins. The lines are often published several days before. If we're going to use NFL, for example, the games typically happen on Sunday. These lines will be published on, Wednesday or Thursday, sometimes a lot, even sooner than that. And, users are able to predict the outcomes of these games before the games start. And then about, a decade ago, in-play betting started gaining popularity as consumers were using their smartphones, and generally consumer trends have been erring on the side of instant gratification. So basically, you take this pre-match money line, which enables you to predict who's going to win or lose the game before the game, and now you could take that line at any moment throughout the game based on the relative probabilities of the outcomes changing. But the key thing to note there is those betting markets are still not resulting until the end of the game, right? So let's say you have the Dolphins against the Jets. The Dolphins are favored initially. They're given a minus 250 money line. Let's say the Jets go off and now they're leading 14-0 in the second quarter. And now that minus 250 for the Dolphins becomes like a plus 150 because now they're the underdog. That plus 150 will still result at the end of the game. So it's enable for the first time are betting markets that a user can bet on and that will be resulted within just minutes or seconds. So now you're betting on, will the Dolphins score a touchdown on their next drive? Yes or no? And that bet will be resulted in 5 or 10 minutes or even sooner if it's a 3 and out. But it's just a new level of instant gratification of sports betting. The existing paradigm of in-play betting, I'll note, is already about 70% of the total market in mature regulated markets in Europe. That's not even including micro markets, because soccer is not really a good sport for micro markets. So we're really excited about the opportunity for micro markets, particularly with respect to U.S. sports and just more generally introducing instant gratification to sports betting for the first time.
Yeah, that's the part I wanted to get to, because I get it with the spread and the money line and whatever it was beforehand. We saw this in real time in the playoffs with the Chiefs a year ago, where they were massive favorites in a game against Houston. Were down by a massive amount in the second quarter. The line line shift in the middle of the game. You could have gotten, if you thought a comeback was coming, a really good price on them. And again, you have to wait for the outcome to get to that. What you and I are talking about now, though, are these real-time, like very quick evolving moments in a game. 3rd and 10 pops up for the Dolphins. Are they going to convert? And then there are all of these other, I would assume, down the road options. Will there be a sack? Will there be a turnover? Will they convert? Will they fall short? Would they go for it on 4th down? Are we there where all of those types of options are out there for the user?
Yes, we're there, and we're getting there, further in earnest. So what I mean by that is, we've spent the last 2.5 years building, as I described before, the operating system for in-play betting, starting with micro markets. So what this operating system first is focused on is just enabling these moments in sporting events to become betting opportunities for the first time. So to use your example, we've created models and automated market mechanics that automatically handle the creation, suspension, repricing, and resulting of markets. In this example for, what's going to happen in the next play. So we'll start by creating a market like, will, this 3rd and 10 play be a pass or a run, or will this 3rd and 10 play result in a first down? Yes or no? So those are the 2 initial markets that we've created. What our operating system enables us to do in a matter of days or weeks, depending on the market, is to literally think of any market imaginable and generate derivative markets around every play. So in your example, we could generate derivative markets like, will this 3rd and 10 play result in a sack? Yes or no? Will it result in a turnover? Yes or no? Will it be a pass to Julian Edelman that goes for 15 yards and offer casual fans 1,000 to 1 odds on that really low probability specific occurrence?
Yeah.
Right. So the goal here is ultimately to enable any bet imaginable in real time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of really defensible technology to do it. The 2 core features of the technology are the automated market mechanics that handle the creation, suspension, repricing, and resulting in real time without any human intervention, and then the machine learning based pricing, which takes a probability based approach to pricing for the first time. So when you marry those 2 features, you now have this operating system that will enable any bet imaginable in real time. That's what we've spent the last 2.5 years building. And now it gets to the fun part where we could think of, all of these new betting markets that we could create and just, develop those derivative markets, on top of the technology that we've built.
Support for this podcast comes from AT&T. 5G from AT&T is fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. So, should you switch? Well, historically, those were the reasons new tech was adopted. Neanderthals saw that fire heated things fast and made their caves secure from rampaging woolly mammoths. The ancient Romans saw that the aqueducts were a reliable and fast way to transport water, so they stopped carrying water jugs on their backs and adopted them nationwide. Oh, and 1800s Victorians saw electricity light up rooms fast and be more reliable than candles blowing out, so they stopped bumping into walls and made it nationwide. Today's no different. Switching to AT&T 5G is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, historically speaking, it's smarter than candles, water pots, and hungry dinosaurs. AT&T 5G, it's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan, may not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
And this is full-on machine learning. They're going to offer up the odds or in the case of like Julian Edelman making, a very specific thing happen in a very specific moment. They are evolving to set odds for all of these potential outcomes. That's what's happening in real time now?
Yes. So all of the selections associated with the betting market have probabilities associated with them, and those probabilities are changing in real time as anything happens in the game. So to use MLB, for example, we have a plate appearance exact market, which enables users to predict, whether the next plate appearance will be a single, double, triple, home run, strikeout, walk, or other. And with every pitch, the probabilities are changing, and users can actually live bet the actual at bat. So let's say, for example, we offer users 16 to 1 odds on a walk before the at bat starts, and now it's a 2-0 count. Oftentimes, you'll see that price go from 16 to 1 to 4 to 1. On a 3-0 count, it'll often go to less than 2 to 1, for example. Really just taking into account anything that's happening during the action that may influence the relative outcome of the market.
So the first screen may always be what we traditionally see. The second screen, I can see this. Are you talking to content providers, broadcasters, if they're allowed to even do this at this point, because we talked, which I'll get back to in a moment, because it's not legal everywhere, which I think complicates this all a little bit. But are the broadcast providers talking to you about how do we implement this into the content that we provide to the viewer yet? Has that gotten there?
Yes, yeah. So we're in touch with, most of the major national media companies, also some of the regional sports networks, who are looking at this very closely because they understand that if users are able to consume sports content and predict or bet on the outcome of every moment within the event that they're consuming, that there's a fundamentally higher level of fan engagement that the broadcaster is experiencing. So yes, we're in touch with most of them at this point. They've all expressed interest in what we're building and trying to figure out the best ways to either directly or indirectly incorporate some of this betting content into their broadcasts. One easy place to start for a lot of these companies is free to play. So, and we actually released a product along these lines with FanDuel as our first product release. So, rather than wager real money, you could start users by enabling them to predict what's going to happen the next play or the next drive of a football game in a free to play environment where they're sort of using virtual tokens and they're trying to climb up a leaderboard, but they're still winning cash prizes. And, with this product that we launched with FanDuel, for example, we're seeing off the charts user engagement. So, for example, a couple Sundays ago, the average user was making 60 predictions, per user across the Sunday slates. On that Monday night game, the average user made 45 predictions throughout the course of the game. 25% or more of the users are spending at least an hour on the app, with 10% of users spending 2 hours on the app. So, we're seeing off the charts fan engagement, and we only expect those numbers to improve as we roll out more derivative markets. We've only started with 4 derivative markets around drives and 2 derivative markets around plays. Ultimately, there will be dozens for each, and then there's also going to be a variety of conditional markets based on players and what they do next. So, for example, what will Tom Brady do on his next pass? Will it be a completion? Yes or no? Will it go for 10 yards? Yes or no? Will it be to Gronkowski? Yes or no? Pretty much any of these imaginable.
Yeah. So let's go back to the legality of it. Yes, the U.S. market is open, but it's going slowly. And there were a couple of elections here, obviously, that opened up a couple of new states, Maryland, a couple of others come to mind that have happened recently. How are you all navigating essentially the opening of the U.S. market, but obviously it's not legal everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, so it is exceeding expectations. I mean, I think we're at least, we're at 22 or 23 states, including DC, that are up and live with legalized sports betting, with, about another 20 that have recently contemplated legislation. So, we think sports betting will ultimately be ubiquitous throughout the country. What's really important to us is mobile sports betting, because, if a user has to go to a casino, and really engage in more of a retail experience where they're sort of getting a ticket from a teller, that's not really, good for in-play betting. But you're seeing mobile betting really, gaining wider spread adoption. And regulators are understanding that nowadays consumers are, mostly on their phones. They prefer not to have to, go to a casino to place a sports bet if they don't have to. And in-play betting, I think, is just continuing to drive this. And, just to use New Jersey as an example. So over October, so just that 1 month, there was over $800 million in total handle. So that's total dollars bet on sports in New Jersey just in October, 93% of which was done either on a mobile phone or on a computer. So, the numbers speak for themselves. And, this was ultimately legalized to, one, enable citizens to do, what they want to do with their lives. And betting on sports is a great way to enhance a consumer's consumption of sport, but 2, also to generate tax revenue for these states. And, the numbers really speak for themselves in terms of the prospective tax revenue if you legalize mobile betting versus just retail.
Since you are working with FanDuel, I am curious. There are a lot of people that wonder about the proliferation of sports gambling, how it's going to affect the fantasy platforms. What's your view on that? The future of fantasy gaming in the midst of the proliferation of sports gambling?
Sure. I mean, I think this is only going to benefit it. I mean, I don't think you're really cannibalizing anything here. I mean, I think with fantasy, season-long fantasy, the way people, consume all sports and, NFL more specifically with, fantasy football. And, now you users who previously never, would care to watch the Cincinnati Bengals or watching the Bengals because they have the third string receiver on their, 12-team fantasy league, for example. So now a consumer is consuming content that they previously would not be interested in as a result of fantasy sports. And now what companies like Simplebet are enabling users to bet on more things as the game is happening. So I think they're quite complementary. The products that we're developing and that these sports betting operators are developing even before micromarkets have existed are all things that are not things that consumers of fantasy sports would be consuming or betting on. So it's all complementary. I think the more fan engagement and consumption of sport you have out there, the better all of these products will do from sort of a revenue standpoint. And, the more things consumers can engage with.
I think I heard you right when you said this is B2B, that you are building this out for the others to utilize, whether it's a content provider or obviously a gambling operation. Are you all going to become a bookmaking service at any point? Is that in the plans for Simplebet?
No, we have no plans to do that. We're a B2B technology company that leverages data to build and enable the future operating system of in-play betting. And one of the great things about being, a B2B company is that we get to focus 100% of our efforts on product innovation and product development. And that's really needed in an industry like this, where the direct-to-consumer operators are, spending majority of their resources on customer acquisition and brand awareness and that's great and it's necessary. They need to, they're doing a great job of introducing America to legalized sports betting, and they're doing what they need to do to get their brands out there. But consumers want to bet on, these moments with it games, and there needs to be companies out there that, make the requisite investment in technology to enable consumers to bet on these things.
So I'm fascinated by the whole thing. And as a huge P1 sports fan, thank you for doing this. I've been waiting for this my whole life. So thank you. Joey Levy is the co-founder of Simplebet. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Support for this podcast comes from Boost with Facebook, whose podcast, Boost My Business with David Fisher, features unique perspectives and insights from some of the world's most interesting business leaders and small business owners. Check out the 5th episode, where you'll hear the owner of Coffee at the Point in Denver discuss the power of hard work with television personality Tan France. Listen to Boost My Business wherever you get your podcasts.
On the next Future Sport podcast, wearable technology has also not come anywhere close to its potential.
Yeah, I think there will be some shifts here that I think will be permanent, right? I think the shift of being able to do a lot more at home, I think is actually, is something that will be permanent in the world of sports. And whether that's, getting athletes to, study plays, getting athletes to, pay it, sort of understand more of their health journey at home.
That's Will Lopes, CEO of Catapult. His background at Audible with Amazon is helping lead the company into a more productive and efficient future. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.